How is it? Story 1. The office is mostly middle-aged women who, as a whole, are very sweet and kind. About 9 times out of 10, if I go to the third-floor men's room around 2 p.m. to use the restroom, I am greeted with the blue cleaning liquid still in the bowl from the overnight cleaning crew. No one has been here for hours, and rarely would someone come in while I am there. There are almost always snacks somewhere too. Story 2. My old company was like 98% women, with only 5 or 6 men in the entire 125-person company. And it was nursing. There was zero accountability, passive aggression was turned up to 11, office drama was insane. It was just a bunch of petty complaining and backstabbing, and it was coming from literally everyone. I was told when I was hired that I would have to really adjust my communication style, which can be very straightforward and blunt. I figured they were telling me to be open and transparent, but what they were looking for was someone to sugarcoat. Anytime I sent an email, there would be 6 people upset about something, whether they didn't like the wording of the email or the tone, when really it was a very dry email about open positions within the company. I had an administrative worker who had a meltdown because she was not consulted about someone being hired who had nothing to do with her. Everyone took everything personally. There were 4 people named Karen at this company, and yes, they were Karens except for the chief financial officer. She was actually terrific. I will never work for a company where there isn't at least around a 50-50 split again. I think ideal workplaces need balance. Story 3. I am a marketing director, and I am the only guy in my entire department. Of course, most of them work for me, but still, I like it. It's challenging sometimes because I am also 5 to 10 years older than many of them too. But with some coaching from my wife on how to deal with some delicate issues that managers sometimes have to deal with, I get along. I found that if you treat everyone fairly and validate their concerns, they are fiercely loyal, and so far it's been pretty fun. Story 4. My team is 99% women. It's pretty cliquey and toxic. I've had multiple superiors start ignoring me or talk to me and act towards me in a highly demeaning and unprofessional manner with no repercussions, as far as I know. I've been with my company for a long time and passed over for the last 4 promotion opportunities. All of the other women candidates have less applicable experience than I do, by a wide margin. One of the other candidates actually quit the company, and they hired her back, showing no respect for internal candidates. When reviewing candidates, they didn't bother to talk to my male boss. I've witnessed him being openly talked down to by his female peers in meetings, but he's kind of soft, so he doesn't stand up for himself. We had a meeting where a female presenter boasted proudly how across the company, the last 75% of promotions were female. Imagine being a minority and hearing someone boast about how they promoted other demographics. While I appreciate that women have been discriminated against in the workplace for a long time, pushing the other way feels like petty revenge. I legitimately think on paper I might have a case for a discrimination suit, but I'm not that type of person and am more focused on finding a new team. Story 5. I'm a male nurse. There are 2 kinds of male nurses, one of the girls and a creep. It's very black and white. It's universal. No matter where I travel, it's always the same 2 tropes. This said, it's nightmarish if you're in the 90% creep group. Even though we get along and hang out with coworkers, we're still pegged as strange or weird because we don't fit their definition of attractive. This became apparent to me early on as I had a friend, male, who already knew these lessons. He'd spend his entire shift working or listening to audiobooks. He is considered a hospital-wide asset, respected by all. But my manager just had to ask me why he's so strange and avoids coworkers. That's when I got clued in. Men gossip like crazy in male-dominated spaces. Usually, we try to maintain a balance between personal and private with our male coworkers. In hospital work, it's all personal. And if you don't play, they will attack. Example. Every 6 months in major cities, the hospitals hire new graduate nurses and place them into year-long residency programs. It's a good thing. One January, we got a fresh nurse. Blonde, young, cute. Oh no. Day 1 shadowing on the floor. As soon as she walked into the medication room with her preceptor, all the other female nurses huddled and started talking negatively. She thinks she's so this and that. She thinks she's cute. I'm not going to lift a finger to help her, etc. I overhear this and chime in that she'll only be as good as we train her to be. We need to support each other. Response: oh, hell no. Okay. A year goes by and they put this young lady through the ringer. They make her repeat her orientation. Then one night she's doing a one-to-one, where a nurse has to sit and watch just one patient, usually someone that needs restraints or extra care. Each room has a camera and the halls have cameras as well. The floor is locked. No elevator or stairs access without a card because it's a traumatic brain injury floor. The assignment was personally made by the same nurse who started talking negatively about her on day one. The next morning, the director is waiting for her at the nurse's station. She's to go home and await a call. Human Resources is investigating the events of the night. She was accused of having intercourse with the patient's husband with the door open in front of the room camera, then leaving the patient to walk the husband down the hall to let him out the elevator. Later, we find out that none of this was on camera, and the patient absolutely denied it and was offended to the point of suing the hospital. The nurse was terminated by phone call. I was present along with her parents. She was absolutely devastated as she invested into her job beyond the norm. The father sued. No video evidence. No evidence of her badge being used on the elevator. The camera shows the nurse sitting next to the patient all night except when she needed a break. The director was caught lying as well as the nurses. Results: the hospital faced significant financial penalties. The director was reassigned because this was the second incident she was involved in that year. Nurses that lied: nothing. Maybe a write-up, I don't know. And I had a huge chuckle because I also testified against my coworkers. That's one example of what it's like in a female-dominated work environment. And it's not even the most extreme or stupid. This happens daily in hospitals. The high drama, the poor attitudes. Granted, it's not all the female nurses' faults, but they sure don't do anything as a group to remedy these conditions. They have a saying that nurses eat their young. They do. And that's what it's like to work in a female work environment with 96% women. Story 6. Other than the fact that they all hate each other and have mean girl cliques, it's pretty good. For the last 3 years, on Valentine's Day, I have sent one of them flowers from a secret admirer just to make them hate each other even more. Story 7. It's fine, and I get along with all my coworkers. There does seem to be a ceiling with how high I can go in this profession as a man, however, which is becoming a little troubling as I reach my midpoint. Story 8. It's great. I just have to be pretty guarded when socializing. I find it easier to navigate this space the less people know about my personal life. The issue I have with working in a woman-dominated space is that when I do something wrong or am mistaken about something, I normally don't find out in the moment. I find out days or even weeks later after having made the mistake several more times because the majority of my colleagues are very non-confrontational. For example, using fake names, I called a coworker Ms. Gwendolyn for weeks before someone told me their name was actually Ms. Madeline. But aside from that little issue, it's a fun environment to work. Story 9. The best way I can describe it is interesting, different. I've worked with only men in the past, and after building a rapport with them, we could joke with each other. I don't feel comfortable doing that with women, even if they do tease me and try to include me in their banter. I'm very careful about what I say about myself, and I'm hyper-aware of how I act, as I don't want anything to be misconstrued. I'm also very aware of how they talk about each other, which means that when I'm not around, I assume that they speak about me in a similar fashion. So, I try not to divulge too much about my personal life, as I find it easier to get along with them on a professional level if they don't know much about me outside of work. I don't join them on nights out or social gatherings. I'd rather keep it professional and separate. I have a few direct reports, all of whom are women, and I have to be very conscientious of how I deliver critical feedback when I need to, and how I help them with their workloads. I find that I have to think through my tone, even if it is professional, and soften the impact of critical feedback, as they seem to take it more personally than when I worked with men. There's also a lot more talking, more check-ins, more emotional needs. And this isn't to say that men don't have similar needs. It's just different with women. But on the whole, I enjoy the work and enjoy my coworkers. They're sharp, hardworking, supportive, and loyal. As long as I do my work and have their backs with the higher-ups, I know that they'll have my back. Story 10. I was hired in my early 20s for the State Department of Cosmetology, ostensibly to be in charge of licensing renewal. In reality, I was the only man in the office and was there to carry anything heavy whenever needed. It was fine. I honestly didn't care. My boss's husband didn't like to attend any kind of state-sponsored events, so she would have me go with her as her escort. Again, it was fine, but the whole thing was so blatantly sexist it wasn't even funny. Story 11. Having done it before, it was nothing but drama. They hated each other and always talked behind each other's back. If a pretty girl came along, the rest of them would get jealous from the attention the men would give. Never would I do it again. This included all age ranges and races, by the way. I'll never do it again. Story 12. I worked in a female-dominated company where I think close to 75% of my role and the 3 levels above me were women. It was all right. There is a lot more politics involved in interpersonal relationships, but on the flip side of that, there were a lot of invitations to go grab lunch someplace or whatever. Story 13. Got lucky. My female coworkers are great. I'm the only full-time male employee in the office out of 12. There are some funny and interesting moments, but we mostly laugh about it. Story 14. It's rough. Too much drama, gossip, and complaining for my taste. I swear some of them would rather complain about a task for 30 minutes than actually spend the 15 minutes it would take to do it. The woman versus woman gossip and drama is the absolute worst. They can be so evil to each other. There are also a lot of male privilege conversations that I have no clue how to speak up in. They will literally say things like, "Oh, he only got that job because he is a man." What do I say to that? Agree with them? Try to defend the person and be labeled as a man just defending another man? It is draining sometimes. I just want to show up to work, get things done, and then go home without any nonsense. Story 15. A lot of husband, boyfriend, and men bashing. A lot of backstabbing each other. Constantly talking about each other behind their backs. Then smiling to their faces. A lot of petty nonsense. Story 16. I do. In fact, 100% of my coworkers are female. I'm the only male. For compassion and understanding on illness, for example, it's great. For drama, emotional nonsense, and one-way street mentalities, it's horrific. Lots of baggage and constant talking behind others' backs. Also, a very sexist environment. If I were to make any sexist remarks, I'd be severely criticized. But I hear daily that all men are dogs, dumb, and need to be controlled. Story 17. Not bad if you get along with them. I do notice that it sometimes takes longer to reach a decision in meetings compared to more gender-balanced meetings. There is also more friendly touching of my arms or shoulder, especially by older women. Story 18. Honestly, it's like working in a chicken coop with chatter, drama, office politics, and an inability to appreciate some silence. Recently, I swapped professions, and my team now consists of 1 woman and 9 men. Our monthly status report meetings are just so much more relaxed. Out in the field, I represent the company alone, and I encounter women and men at a 50-50 rate now. Female consultants, but mostly male technicians. Still a huge upgrade from being the only male. Story 19. Women talk about sex and sexual things way more than men. That's the biggest thing I realized. Men never talk about their sexual experiences unless they are drunk and pressured. Otherwise, it's very brief. Like, "Yo bro, how was your trip?" "Oh, it was fantastic. I met this really cool girl and, well, I also went and did something." Women are in-depth and unabashed, literally makes me blush with some of the stuff they talk about. They are very descriptive. Story 20. I conduct interviews and there is pressure to be more forgiving to women. We do a coding interview and a personality interview. Regarding the coding interviews, in general, men tend to perform somewhat better than women. However, the more extreme special cases, whether extremely good and proficient or extremely poor, tend to be men. The personality interviews are, to my surprise, where men regularly outperform women. We ask questions like, discuss a social issue you care about. What do you feel about diversity in the workplace? How do you handle disagreements in the workplace? What if the person who disagrees with you is much less experienced? Do you feel minorities have been historically mistreated in the tech industry? Men will answer these questions well or give generic responses which are acceptable. They try to present themselves in the best light, discuss sensitive subjects, and talk about global issues, in tech or otherwise. Women tend to be either overly passionate about social issues or indifferent to any minority that doesn't include them. If she is a black woman, she may care about black people and women but not queer people, immigrants, neurodivergent individuals, etc. We expect Catholic neurotypical white straight men to care about women, people of color, queer individuals, immigrants, and every other minority possible and their struggles. Women may assert that if someone disagrees with them, they will insist on their way. If it's a less experienced person, they might ignore them because they believe they know better, rather than explaining themselves and helping the less experienced to grow by understanding the reasons behind decisions. Last year, we were looking for a female leadership role and I had to interview 6 women and 1 man. We always conduct interviews in pairs of 1 man and 1 woman to minimize bias, and we unanimously agreed on hiring the man after these 6 women made us feel deeply uncomfortable during the interview. They treated us as if we were wasting their time and delaying the hiring process. If any woman is reading this, take it as advice. If you have an interview, it's okay not to express your true feelings. We are concerned with how you can handle yourself in the workplace and ensure you don't make the environment unsafe for others. At the end of the day, it's just a job, not your life. It's okay to treat it as such. I know for a fact that the company doesn't care about you or your feelings. Day in and day out, I just put on my conforming persona, do my job, and log off. Don't get me wrong, this is not a 100% certainty, more like 80%. We have found great women, but it's unexpectedly challenging.